trial production in January, and then full-time production started in March. Since then, we've processed about 50 million barrels of crude. We've produced about 5 million tons of petroleum products. And these petroleum products have been sold in various parts of the country. Jet has been sold in Europe since May. We've been sending jet to Europe. Other products have been sent to places as far as Asia, US, Brazil, and so on. So the refinery has been making a lot of progress. We just basically have 3 questions that we think we should look at by the committee and also as Nigerians. The first question is, do local refineries deserve protection from dumping? That's the first question. Second question is, should Nigeria protect its infant industries in order to encourage investment? And then the third question is, should local refineries have preferential access to Nigerian crude? Those really are our questions that we want this committee to consider. On the first one, as I've said, we produced 5 million tons of products, but of those 5 million tons, about 90% of it had to be exported. While at the same time, products we were producing are being imported into Nigeria. We find ourselves competing against Russian products that are being produced with oil that is valued at $60. We all know that because of the cap that has been put on Russian oil, the value of Russian oil today in the market is $60. And that's what Russia is using to produce their products, and those products are being sent in large quantities into Africa to compete with products that are produced in refineries that buy crude at $90. We don't think this will be a fair competitive environment. And I think even under the rules of WTO, when you have such unfair competition, it is normal to put protective measures. US, for example, has done that to protect their own industries against attack by China that subsidizes their own industries and then sends them to US. So that's the first question. We want the committee to consider, do we deserve protection against dumping? The second, as a nascent industry, refineries, I think we can all agree, even though NNPC has run refineries, but for the private sector, it is new. And generally, when you start a new refinery, it takes at least 2 years to stabilize. You go through a process of stabilization, you'll be struggling with the refinery, ramp up your capacity, bring new units, and so on, get your processes, your financing, and all that. It takes at least 2 years. If within this period, you don't allow this baby, you don't give it some protection. I think even in the animal world, when a new baby is born, they don't just throw it, leave it out in the wilderness, right? There's some protection that is provided in order for it to grow and be able to compete. So during this period, the question we're asking is, and it's not just refinery, but Nigeria as a country, should we look at protecting our nascent industries in order for them to thrive? That's the second question. Essentially, we want to be able to sell more of our products. Okay. We want to be able to sell more of our products in Nigeria because we believe we can do that, we can compete. And even though there are concerns that have been expressed around monopoly, that is a problem that has been identified. The right thing to do is to say, how do we address this problem? If monopoly is a risk, how do we address this risk while at the same time ensuring that we protect our domestic industries? And the good thing is that in the PIA, there are provisions around that. NMDPRA can monitor and take action if they feel there's monopoly. And it's very clear the actions that are to be taken. The last question is around crude. Right now, as I said, we bought about 50 million barrels of crude. About 60% of that comes from NNPC, and we're thankful to them for their support. And we hope we'll continue to get this support. About 20% of that had to be imported from outside, and then 20% we purchased. Essentially, what we are asking for crude, and let's be very clear, we are happy to pay fair prices. We don't complain we don't go and haggle with NNPC. We are very happy with the price that they set, price like supermarket, and that's where we buy it, right? But what we buy from others is what we think the regulator should look at, and the good thing is the regulator has published a guideline that will address some of this. And we hope that we'll work with the regulator and we'll get their support so that 100% of Nigerian crude, the refinery can get 100% of its crude from Nigeria and buy the crude from companies that produce it in Nigeria, not from international middlemen. Whatever the price is, as long as it is in Nigeria, and that's the price also that the producer will pay their tax on, we'll be happy to pay that. So that's our third question. And we count on support of the committee, the regulators, and other stakeholders to ensure that the refinery succeeds. Because if it does, aside from the other obvious benefits, like FX generation, job creation, and the rest, most importantly, there is the psychological benefit of giving Nigerians and Africans in general the confidence that we can succeed. We can build big things and make them successful. And that in itself is invaluable. Thank you very much.